I think we're kind of about ready to get started. So again, one last reminder, if you have a question, please use that Q&A button. If you have anything else in terms of comments, we'd love to hear from you. Use that chat feature. And I'm going to turn it back over to our housing reporter, Louis Hansen.
Thanks, Erin, and thanks subscribers and followers of the East Bay Times and Mercury News. I'm Louis Hansen. I'm a housing reporter with the Bay Area News Group. And today we're talking about the housing market in the Bay Area and what impacts that COVID-19 has had. We are already in a hot market. It started in April 2012 and really never slowed down until maybe 2018. We were setting records. We were seeing 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths sell for what would be mansion prices in the rest of America. So we're seeing a lot of demand and high prices out here. And things were picking up again in January. And then COVID-19 hit. So we're going to look a little bit about some of the impacts that it's having and looking forward. We have a couple of local agents with expertise on boots on the ground, and I'd like to introduce them right now. One agent that we're the first agent I'll introduce is Ramesh Rao. He is a Cupertino-based agent with Coldwell Banker. He has started his career in the high-tech industry and transferred very successfully into real estate, and has been a veteran selling in Silicon Valley for some time. Sandy Jamison is the president of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. She is also a very successful agent who started her business, her career in high tech too, and switched over to properties, and found that buying and selling and investing was a much more rewarding and exciting place to be. So we welcome these 2 experts. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to throw out a question to you both. And Sandy, why don't you answer first, and then Ramesh, you can jump in. What are you hearing from your clients out here? What was happening early in the year, and what happened immediately after the pandemic?
Great question, Lou, and thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate it. So yeah, we were full steam ahead at the beginning of the year. It was going to be a banner year. We were looking to look. 2020 was going to be just phenomenal for sales volume, for prices, all around. It was going to be excellent. We had a lot of listings coming on. We had a lot of excited sellers. We had a lot of buyer momentum, and then COVID hit. And then everything came to a screeching halt. And so we hit this major hiccup. And so things are starting to come out of that. We've had a lot of velocity in the last 30 days. And what I mean by that is the buyer activity has really picked up. Things were moving pretty slowly for the first couple of months, but literally in the last 30 days, the buyers are out, they're making offers, they're showing, the pendings have gone up significantly. But what we're seeing still on the seller side is a number of sellers, and I work a lot with sellers who are of retirement age. And so what I'm seeing is a significant number of clients who have small businesses. They've been shut down for so many months that they are basically at a point where they're just going to throw in the towel. They don't see any clear end in sight to this corona shelter in place and all these restrictions, and they haven't been able to go back to business. And if business does open up, they're not sure what the business is going to look like, if there's even going to be much of a business there. So many of them are just deciding to fold up shop. Let's either sell the business, liquidate the assets, and let's finally just retire. Let's put the house on the market. We don't even really need to be in the Bay Area anymore. Why don't we cash in? We have a lot of equity in our homes. Why don't we cash those homes in? Let's move out of state. We can find a nice community, and for all practical purposes, they see it as they can find a better lifestyle at a much lower price in other parts of the nation. And so they can then put some money in the bank and they can use that for retirement. So we're seeing a lot of that right now.
Yeah. Ramesh, what are you hearing from buyers? Is there buyers and sellers? Is the demand out there? and what's happening with supply. And please talk about you're based in Cupertino. You do a lot of Silicon Valley.
Correct. Thanks for having me here, Lou. I really appreciate it. Basically, what's happening in our market is a little bit different. We have a lot of moving up buyers who have been waiting for a while to move up. They're talking about people who used to live in 3 bedrooms looking to buy 4 or 5 bedroom homes. People living typically in condominiums or townhomes, having small families, are now ready to move into a single family home to stretch a little bit more. So what we see is happening is 2 things. On the buyer side, we have a pool of very qualified and more ready to make an offer kind of buyers. That's simply because what happened is because of the virus, we changed the process completely got changed from how it used to be to 180 degrees. Let me explain what I mean by that. Generally, people used to find a home from looking at websites like Redfin or Zillow or some other place. They would look at that and say, oh, you know what, let's go and check it out on an open house. They look at the open house, they like the properties, then they say, well, what do the disclosures say? What do the reports say? Let me take a look at that. If they liked all of them, then they would say, well, okay, we want to make an offer. What's the right price to pay? But thanks to the coronavirus, it's completely 180 now. People first get all the information they want about the house. They are given the virtual tours and, basically virtual open houses. And they look at all those things, look at the property, and they make sure that they really like the property before taking the final point or the step in the decision making, which is actually go and visit the home. Because of that, what has happened is the number of buyers that we would see for a listing has gone down dramatically. At the same time, the quality of the buyers has gone up because each one of them is likely to make an offer because they have looked at every other aspect of the house.
So you're finding that buyers are really doing their homework these days. And if they're going to take a measured risk with their health, they're going to be pretty sure that it's a house that they might want to buy. There's not a lot of looky-loos going on in these listings.
That is correct. All the looky-loos are happening online because if you look at the number of views these listings are getting online, they are going into thousands now. But then, actually how many people want to make an appointment to see the property? The numbers fall dramatically. Then how many offers we get out of them is even smaller.
And Sandy, what are you seeing? Is that a similar experience that you get?
Absolutely.
And what's happening to the prices when
Absolutely.
You have fewer buyers?
So the online traffic right now is huge because the buyers are spending more time at home. They're able to search online. They're looking at a lot more houses. So we're seeing a lot of traffic on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, all these sites. But as Ramesh said, that doesn't always translate into number of showings. So what I'm seeing is I'm getting 20 to 30 showings on a listing before I receive that first offer. It takes quite a few more showings because the buyers are far more discerning than they ever were before. They want a house that's move-in ready. So I tell my sellers, look, if your house has deferred maintenance or functional obsolescence or isn't priced right, then you're going to be on the market for quite a while. Because these buyers, they don't want to move into a fixer-upper. They don't want to have to pour a lot of money into it after they move in. They want a house that is well-maintained, that has already been updated, is nice by and large, and that they want that so that they can move in and enjoy the home immediately. And so the homes that are priced right and show the best are obviously going to sell the fastest. But we have definitely seen that it's taking more showings in order to get to a decent offer.
What do you hear from sellers, Sandy? What concerns do they have about health and safety? And I want both of you to talk a little bit about how you've changed your business since the middle of March.
That's a great question, Lou. So yeah, the sellers are definitely concerned about COVID and how we can protect their health through this process. We do have a number of guidelines in the real estate industry that we're following. For example, open houses are no longer allowed. So all showings have to be by appointment. the seller is supposed to leave the home during the showing, and only the agent and 2 buyers maximum are allowed into the home. So they're not supposed to come through with 5 or 6 family members. It's only supposed to be 2 buyers with an agent. All parties are supposed to wear a mask and gloves as they come through the home, and the property is supposed to be sanitized and wiped down by the agent on their way out, or the listing agent or seller. Somebody needs to wipe everything down in between showings in order to make sure that it's sanitary. We're seeing that we're taking wipes and we're using those on the doorknobs and wiping down all the lock boxes and doorknobs. Anything we have to touch, we wipe those down as we go. And then we recommend to the sellers who are showing their properties, leave all the closet doors open with the lights on. That way there's less touching. The buyer's agent doesn't have to open that door and turn on that light. It's already there. They could just take a peek. They don't actually have to touch anything. So it helps minimize that. So there's measures that we're taking in order to try to protect our sellers as best as possible. And so that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Ramesh, are you taking similar precautions? And can you talk a little bit about more virtual 3D tours and videos? Has that become more of your marketing and your presentation of homes?
Yeah, definitely. Just like Sandy was saying, we have very strict guidelines as to what precautions we should take to make sure we don't spread the coronavirus. Coldwell Banker has extensive guidelines as to what we have to do to educate the buyers and the sellers before we actually let them into the home. And we provide them the gloves and the masks if they don't have any, and hand sanitizers. And, kids are obviously not allowed into the house. So we take as many precautions as possible, including the social distancing requirements, to make sure the health risk is avoided at any cost. Having said that, when we have to show the property to the client, people don't make decisions of buying a $3 million home sight unseen. They really want to go in there sooner or later. So the next best alternative we can offer is the virtual tour that many of these vendors are offering these days. But what we do have to do one time was, I had this listing in Sunnyvale. That was the peak of the coronavirus when nobody could be allowed inside, including the listing agent. So the seller went around with FaceTime Live. We scheduled the FaceTime Live, and then people called in, and the seller went into each room, and as if the buyer is walking through the home. And we stopped at every point saying, do you have any questions? Do you want to see something else? Show me from this angle, show me from that angle, or do you have this new dress? Whatever the buyers wanted to do, we could do that. And we even sold that home to a buyer who just saw the home virtually. So it is sometimes doable, but not very often.
It's so you just with an iPhone and a good pair of shoes, you can show virtually these days. New way of doing business. And realtors, in my experience with them, you're very friendly people. You like the handshakes and the hugs and the personal connections. Have you found that difficult or challenging in these days, Sandy?
Absolutely. I've always been a big hugger, and so it's a little awkward sometimes, even on an appointment like last night. As I'm leaving my client's home, my inclination is to want to reach out my hand and shake their hand or give them a hug, and I can't, so I just kind of stand back and wave and chuckle, but it creates a little bit of an awkwardness. And so I can't wait to get back to the days where we can actually act like normal again. Yeah.
Ramesh, how do you do the virtual handshakes?
It's very hard. Just yesterday, we sold a multi-million-dollar home. And when I went to give the key to my client, it was so hard not to just shake hands saying, thanks for everything. But then, it's kind of nice in a way that people recognize that you cannot do certain things in this environment. And they express that a lot in work. we use a lot of text, a lot of emails to say what we want, how they feel. So my time on the phone has gone up dramatically since the coronavirus days, because that's the only form of conversation we have these days.
Yeah. Ramesh, when you work with a lot of tech clients, a lot of tech professionals, have you seen a change in their desires for a type of home? Are they looking for more space these days, since the major tech employers are saying that work from home is going to be a bigger part of work life in the future? Do you see that already, or do you expect it in the future?
It's funny you should ask that, because when work from home happened, it was purely by necessity. So there was no other alternatives these employers had rather than shut the place down. So when working from home happened, I heard a lot from my clients saying, you know what, I'm going to be working remotely, so I can go anywhere. I'm not attached to the physical location of the office. And a month into it, their perspective has completely changed. Now they're saying, I want a demarcation between my work and home. I don't want to be home all the time. I want to be somewhere undisturbed by my family. So people who used to have smaller homes are beginning to ask me for a bigger home. Just yesterday, I had a call from a client who lives in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in San Jose. Beautiful and recently updated. They bought it only 5 years ago. They want a home in Los Altos Hills. They said, we want an acre lot. We don't want anything less than that. So get me something there. And I said, what about commute? Yeah, we are going to be very close to the commute. So commute is still the number one reason why people want to live closer to rather than move away from there.
So it's still important to a lot of tech professionals to be near the office, to be near the mothership.
Yes, because they don't believe that it's going to be 100% working remotely. There will be scenarios where they have to go to the physical location of the office, either for making presentations or meetings, because the people I'm dealing with are very much in the mid-level to a high-level executive. They cannot work from home forever when the offices open up. There is, so I see more and more people still buying homes closer to workplace and not the other way around.
Yeah. Sandy, we've got a question here from one of the audience, and you might be able to shed some insight into this. Have you seen any changes? I don't know how much commercial business you do. Have you seen any or heard any in the changes in the commercial market, and might some of that be open to becoming affordable housing or some way repurposed?
So that's a great question. We have seen some changes in the commercial space with a lot of the small businesses, definitely in small retail strip centers or small office complexes. There's a lot of businesses that are just going to be working at home permanently, or they're folding up their business. So we're expecting to see a very much slow, more depressed market in the commercial leasing space. I think there's going to be a lot more inventory. We're expecting more inventory out there, maybe a little bit of softening in the prices, and it's certainly going to take longer to find a tenant to fill that space. Now, I have not heard anything about repurposing those spaces and turning them into residential units. That touches on a lot of factors about zoning and permitting, and that's definitely a bigger can of worms. So, but we're certainly expecting that there's going to be some depression in the commercial space.
Yeah. Sandy, you focus a lot on relocations and older homeowners looking to move out of the Bay Area. I thought one of the fascinating stories was about one of your clients, Tony Hicks, and he owned 3 properties in San Jose, and he had tenants in all of them and lived in one of them. Please tell us about Tony and what drove him, and how did his escape from the Bay Area turn out?
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, Tony Hicks approached me, and he had 3 properties in San Jose. They were all rentals, and he was basically renting rooms out, and so he had 3 to 4 tenants in each house. But Tony's the type of person that everyone he rents is like a family member to him. He's such a wonderful, lighthearted, wonderful, I just can't even say enough good things about him. So that when he decided that he wanted to leave California, he approached all of his tenants and asked them if they would be willing to go with him. And 90% of them said yes. And so he actually bought 5 houses in Colorado, which were nicer homes, all fixed up, lovely, and moved them and paid their moving expenses, got the moving trucks, moved them all to Colorado, lowered their rents at the same time. And so he literally picked up and moved his entire estate to Colorado. I helped him sell these 3 houses in San Jose. They're all out there. They love it. They're happy. They're still together. All the roommates are getting along. They have a nicer home. Right. They love the community. And he built his own house, a big house. He started from scratch, and he recently moved in. Huge 4,000 square foot home, gorgeous. And so he is on top of the world right now. He couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that just sort of shows you what you can do with the equity in your Bay Area home if you're a long time homeowner here. And Tony, as I recall, his new house has a 5-car garage, yet he only has 2. So I don't know what he's going to do with all that space, but he is a very spirit-filled and fun guy. We have a couple of other questions here. Have you seen any buyers that are interested in having multi-generational homes? Is there a push to bring families together right now? High prices here and tight-knit families. Ramesh, do you see any of that?
Not particularly from people who are considering bringing their parents in. Many of my clients already have taken that into account when they buy a home. They may have family or friends coming to stay with them for an extended period of time. So they always make sure that they have a guest bedroom per se that caters to that particular need. But I'm not seeing that as a result of the COVID-19 activities.
Yeah. Sandy, do you see any of that in your buyers?
Not a big shift in that direction. We're still seeing a large demand for homes that have a bedroom and full bathroom on the ground floor for the families that have their parents come in and stay with them for several months out of the year. Those homes are still in high demand, but that hasn't changed as a result of COVID. That's been constant for several years.
Have you seen any changes in the market for second homes? I know it's still early and all the trends haven't played out, but has anything changed in that space?
So, Lou, I think that's a great question. I don't have the actual data on this, but I've read some articles and I've also got a little bit of experience. I personally have a second home in Tahoe, and I know that many people who do are spending more time at their second home working from home. Since they don't have to go into the office, there's no reason that they have to stay in San Jose or the Bay Area to work from home. So they're spending more time in their second homes. And I do know that some markets, Florida and definitely Jackson, and some of the second home markets are seeing a boom right now because a lot of these wealthy people who have money are trying to cash in and take advantage in those markets because they can pick up some properties that maybe somebody else is selling because they're out of work and they're stressed, and so they need to offload the property for financial reasons. There's plenty of other people willing to jump in and pick up those homes at a bargain. And so what that means is there's more trading going on. I'm not sure how that equates into prices, but we're seeing some more activity in some of those markets. And Skylar may actually have some data on this, but I've definitely been hearing about this. And even myself, I'm picking up another second home down in Mexico, an oceanfront property.
That would be a third home then, Sandy, if it's another second. So just a point of clarification that journalists use.
Picking up my third home, yes, of course.
Okay. So some activity there, anecdotally, and it's like we said, it's a little bit early for it to show up in the numbers. Hey, Ramesh, have you heard anything? And I'll throw it out to both of you. Got a question about ADUs. Are people interested in looking for accessory dwelling units, cottages, granny flats, more so right now than perhaps in the pre-COVID era?
We do expect what we see more and more happening is, as a general term, not after the COVID-19, we have seen an increased request for ADUs or off-air quarters. We have seen that, or we see places where they say either I need an ADU or at least room to put one. On the lower end, we don't see that much because generally the lot sizes tend to be smaller and they cannot accommodate putting up an ADU. On the higher end, like Los Altos Hills or Saratoga, we already see many homes do come with ADUs. Very nicely done ADUs. I don't mind living in one of them. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're also being used more as a source of revenue in many cases as well, because you can easily get $2,500 to $3,000 rent for a 2-bedroom, nicely done ADU in Los Altos.
Sure. Yeah. Sandy, have you seen any questions about that?
Absolutely. It's one of probably the most common questions we get on certain listings is, can I put an ADU on this property? And anytime I have a home with a slightly larger lot, that is one of the key questions is, can I put an ADU on it? So we are definitely seeing a lot of interest there.
Another question, have you seen a decline in listings of rental properties? And I think this might be, hopefully we're still going here. A decline in rental properties listings because of the eviction moratorium. This sounds like it's from a landlord, property manager.
So I haven't seen the data on this, but with the eviction moratorium in effect, that means that it's going to take longer to vacate a tenant, which means that property will not be coming available back up for rent for quite some time. So those tenants are going to stay put as long as they possibly can under these current restrictions. So that would lead me to believe that there is likely probably some reduction in the availability of rental units out there. I can also tell you, though, that many investors right now are hesitant to buy more properties to hold as long-term rentals in the Bay Area or even in California for that matter, because of all these rental restrictions and eviction moratoriums. They're extremely hesitant to pick up more of those into their portfolio. And so that is definitely a trend that I'm seeing. And then in addition to that, another thing that I'm seeing is landlords who do have a property for rent are scrutinizing a little bit more heavily what is the applicant's occupation. Do they have an essential job or not? And so you can see that there may be some occupation discrimination perhaps going on out there that didn't used to matter or wasn't a big focus, but we're seeing more people thinking of that mindset these days. And so I can tell you that those are the things that I'm seeing.
Yeah. One last to wrap it up, and I'll throw it out to Ramesh. What does the future look like, do you think, in the 12 months or so, or however long we have for this pandemic? What are you expecting?
There's a lot of uncertainties in the market right now. The biggest one is when the vaccine for this virus is going to be available. That there's a lot of things hinging upon what's going to happen. When can the economy open really? When can people go back to work? When can kids go back to school? So given all those uncertainties, what we see happening is people are still assuming that they'll be able to go back to school and work and everything eventually, maybe in 2021 rather than in 2020. So what we see happening is people moving up and making room for that scenario when they may have to spend some more time in the home. So we do expect more homes to come on the market, and we also see if that's priced right, value-based pricing, what I call, if your location perfect, good schools, and good condition, homes are going very quickly, and we believe that trend will continue for a long time as long as the local economy and the local stock market is doing well.
Great. Sandy, what do you expect for the future?
So we're expecting a healthy market, a lot of activity, trading in real estate in the Bay Area throughout the rest of the year and into next year. Barring that we don't have another phase 2 coronavirus lockdown, if that hits in the fall or winter, as some people are predicting, then that will certainly cause another hiccup. But aside from that, the factors still remain strong. One of the questions I used to have is, what would the foreclosure market look like next year? Are we going to expect a wave there or not? And I know that Skylar had touched on this a little bit. A couple of thoughts on that. So I can tell you right now that the broker price opinion requests from the banks is up significantly, and that is driven by the number of defaults. So the notice of defaults are up, as would be expected. We're in it's about 3 months, which is hitting that 90-day mark now, where people haven't made their payments. So we're starting to see that pick up. However, we don't expect all of those to translate into foreclosures next year, because what's different this time around is that people have equity. The market values are up. The market has still remained stable by and large. And so if they're not able to catch up on their payments, they're going to be more likely to be able to sell that home and capture some of their equity in order to avoid losing it to foreclosure. So we might see a few, but it's not going to be anything like what it was back in 08 and 09. I did just get one this week, a foreclosure assignment. So there's going to be a few out there, like I said, but it's not going to be huge. I think people will find a way to save themselves. And by and large, the majority of the market is going to be pretty healthy as long as we can manage to keep people working and keep the economy moving forward. I think everything's going to be just fine in the Bay Area.
That's great. Well, I want to thank our guests. Great information, great conversation. I really appreciate it. Skylar Olsen, a senior economist with Zillow, and Sandy Jamison with Tuscana Properties, and Ramesh Rao with Coldwell Banker. Experts all. Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, readers. Support local news. And as always, I'm Louis Hansen. Please subscribe and reach out to us if you have any questions. Thanks. I'll turn it back to Aaron.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you, Lou.
Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had here. Thank you to all our guests. And again, thank you, subscribers. Thank you, readers, for joining. You will have another event, right, on July 16th. So please go ahead and sign up and register for that if you are interested. If you do have any questions, please let us know at the events@bayareanewsgroup.com.